For me, it was never a question of either or. I just went for it and continued to go for it. People shouldn't forget about their own unique value. Leadership is responsibility, and you really carry that with you every single day. You're not going to do things perfectly. You're going to make mistakes, especially as a first-time manager. When I look back at the moments that really moved the needle for me, I think it's always been a combination of three things, really. Timing is one of them. It's something we can't always control, but I think it's important to be aware of. There's always the right time for the right opportunity. The second thing is really being able to spot the right opportunity for me. And it's not always the obvious role or promotion, but it has been certain projects that I wanted to be part of, or gaining exposure to a new market segment or a new geography. So being able to just understand that that is an opportunity for me that I could tap into. And then the third, and it's probably the most important parts, is being prepared. And with being prepared, I really mean having an idea of what you want to do next, and also understanding what are the different routes that will get you there. And I think that is a key part that is definitely within our control, to really be prepared for those moments. You don't have to have a 5-year, 10-year plan either. I think in this day and age, it's not even relevant anymore because things change so rapidly. But to at least have an understanding of, okay, this is what I like to do, this is what I'm good at, I would love to expand it this way or that way in the next year or the next 2 years. Just knowing that, understanding that, and then being prepared for when the right opportunity comes along at the right time. And then in terms of being more visible within an organization, if I think back on my own experience, it has been very much linked with change. So to me, change really equals opportunity. Maybe not at first sight, but when you really approach it that way, you can see something that comes out of it, like a result, growth, something constructive. I think when you are that person that approaches change in that way, you automatically become more visible within an organization, because it's not easy. It's not common either. A lot of people, we're almost wired to protect ourselves from change. So if you're that person that can get over that initial response and really approach it from a problem-solving side, or what is the organization trying to do with this change, or try to understand the why behind it, and being able to communicate that, work with it, come with ideas, that's the kind of stuff that's definitely helped me. But it's also the stuff that I now look for in other people as well. At every level, it's been being able to see the bigger picture. When you're an individual contributor, you're so focused on your own worlds, your own markets, your own customers, your own targets. And transitioning from an individual contributor to a first-time manager, you're almost pulled out of that instantly, and then you see a higher level of what's going on. So every move has helped me to see that bigger picture, but also gain a better understanding of the organization I was with at each time, to really be able to connect the dots. I think that's really, really important. And to communicate back important things to the team as well. For people stepping into a first-time leadership role, expect to make mistakes. It's a given, it's part of the job. And expect constant reflection. I think that's another thing. Leadership is a responsibility, and you really carry that with you every single day. You're not going to do things perfectly. You're going to make mistakes, especially as a first-time manager. You're going through a learning curve as well as your team. So you have to kind of find the new dynamic. You have to set your own kind of culture within the team. You have to establish credibility with your team. So there's a lot going on when you're moving into that position for the first time. So don't expect perfection. It's not about perfection. It's just about you caring, being dedicated, being committed to the organizational goals, but also the individuals under your care and their developments as well. What I've learned from leadership in large organizations has really been structure, repeatable processes, having a data-backed approach to everything, and really optimizing prioritization, those types of things. What I've learned in the more leaner setups has really been pure grit and resilience, being able to adapt and pivot, being okay with it, and also a little bit of not having the full information or the full resources that you need to come to a decision, and being okay with that. I think that has been a key part of the smaller organizations that I've been in. When you're a smaller team, everyone does more than just their job. It's almost a given, it's part of it. And also, people's motivations are different when you're working in that kind of environment. So as a leader, you have to understand that as well. The motivations might be different. The purpose of the organization might be felt more in a smaller organization, or the impact is also felt more. But then in a large organization, they became so large because they did certain things. They grew in a certain way, and it just requires a different leadership approach sometimes. You can still have the same motivations and the same grit and the resilience, but on the overall, it's just slightly different dynamics and different things that you take away from each organization. It's definitely helped me a lot, having been exposed and working in different environments in both large organizations and smaller ones, to really fully understand, oh, this is how it kind of comes together. I wouldn't say I have faced resistance. I have been aware of unconscious bias. I think everyone carries some form of unconscious bias. In my experience, it's been maybe some moments where people were expecting me to be a male purely because of my role and what they were used to seeing. But on the overall, I've had male and female managers all supporting me along the way. That's been a big part of my career journey. But also just on peer level in the commercial space as an individual contributor, you sometimes tend to compete with other high performers. And I've managed to build really great relationships with my peers in that way. For me personally, I'm someone who is comfortable addressing things and raising certain topics. And I think that that's an important part of how to handle those types of situations. So if I feel that there's a need to bring something up or ask questions about it, I definitely won't shy away from addressing it, asking it. It's my responsibility to do that for my team when I spot things like that. But I always try to approach it from a situation of trying to understand and to just address the situation and then move forward. I think that's just a more constructive way of doing it. You shouldn't be afraid of letting people get to know you and what you stand for and what you're about, especially as a leader. I've always had this dream of seeing more of the world, exploring the world, living in different places. Even when I was little, I kind of had that vision for myself. And that morphed into my professional life, where I was really curious about other markets, understanding how they operate, understanding how business is done in different parts of the world. So for me, that really helped, that natural interest and curiosity moving to a new region, moving to Singapore. It's a fascinating region. There's so much diversity in cultures, in doing business, in communication styles. So there's so much to learn. I think the most important thing is that you go in with a very open mind and with an attitude of learning and understanding, and also be respectful for how things are done in a new region where you may have had exposure to, but you don't know until you're actually based there and working there, of understanding how things work. So that would be my main advice. But at the same time, don't forget about why you're there either. You bring experience too, from coming from a different market or having experience in a different environment. Those experiences can be great to link up with what you're going to be doing next in a new region as well. On top of that, I think what's really important is that you bring your key stakeholders in a new role, in a new region with you, in your vision quite early on, include them in processes, include them in what you're trying to establish, and really rally around your shared goals and your common objectives. I think always bringing it back to that is really, really important, and builds really good relationships. I think that's another key part of it. If you do have the opportunity to have someone be your sounding board, so this could be your manager, it could be someone else within the company that you really trust, especially for that first year when you're in a completely different environment, a new region. It really helps because there's so many new learnings and so many ideas and things that you absorb, that having that sounding board really, really helps to get you to your success. Change is tricky because people can respond very differently to it. So you need to fully understand where individuals are in that whole process and how you can support them. Usually, if there is resistance to change, it's typically because of either a fear for something or a uncertainty that's linked to it. So it's really important that you as leader understand where that's coming from so that you can address it and move forward from that. Communicate the why behind certain decisions that are made, and really going back to linking what someone is doing in their role to the organizational goals and why something is really important. So this is where representation really matters, I think, and where role models really play a role, because I didn't know any better. I come from a dual career household. Both my parents worked full time while having and raising children as well. So I have seen that it works, that it can be done. So for me, it was never a question of either or. I just went for it and continue to go for it. It might be difficult, or where doubt might creep in is just in, when you start to think about it, how am I going to do this? How am I going to balance this? I don't think that there's necessarily a perfect clean cut balance, to be honest. It is just something you do because you want to do it. And ideally, your work rewards you and gives you a feeling of fulfillment as well and gives you energy back. But I definitely don't think that there is a clean cut balance between the two. You go through different phases and you just manage as you go. I think you just have to accept that it's not going to be perfect, and that's totally fine. And you just have to let go of that fear because you're going to figure it out. I think if I look back during my first pregnancy, I definitely spent quite some time, overthinking some of the logistics or planning, or how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But that was really not necessary because you just figure it out as you go. And as long as you're doing what you want to do and you're realizing your own goals that you've set for yourself, and that could be anything, it could be a professional goal, it could be a personal goal, then you're on the right track, and just figure it out as you go. You don't have to have everything mapped out and planned out in advance. It's so important that you advocate for yourself. I really strongly advise everyone to spend time on this, really to have those conversations, to prepare for those types of conversations. Because at the end of the day, you yourself are responsible for your career. It's your journey. You get to decide what you want to do next, and you have to really advocate for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself. The reality is you don't get better at it unless you start doing it, right? So as with most difficult things, put yourself in that uncomfortable position the first time, the second time, the third time. I would say prepare really, really well to understand what you're asking for, because a lot of the times with people I coach or mentor, they don't actually know why they're asking for something or why they want something. Be very honest with yourself. What do I want? What am I asking for? And how can I justify this, even to myself and then to someone else? So I think it's worth spending some time early on, taking those steps, finding the right time also to address certain things, and come with a plan and just have those conversations. Ask for some time with your manager. Maybe it's during a review or following a review after completing a great project. You do have to find your moments to bring those types of conversations up, but I think it's extremely important. It's also important when you're on the other side as a leader that you know what someone wants, right? Because a lot of the times, if you don't speak up and you don't communicate what it is that you would like to achieve in the next few years, then people just don't know. So it's up to you to find a way where you're comfortable with communicating that. In 2 years' time, I would love to do X, Y, Z, being able to just very confidently and comfortably say that. And I think the other thing is also people are sometimes afraid of rejection, and that's part of it. So you may ask for something, you may be putting your name out there for a promotion and not get it. Like, that's the reality of it. You have to also accept that from the start so that you're comfortable with that. That could be an outcome. It's not a reflection on you, it was just not the right opportunity at that time for you. And that's fine. At least you went for it and you made it known that that's something that you wanted to take on. And the other thing is also, I had someone recently actually tell me they wanted to share more of their successes, but they were afraid that it would come across a certain way. So it would come across like they're bragging. And this is something I do hear more often. And I think you need to reframe that. I think that's really, really important, not just for the individual, but for the team or the organization, because within the commercial space, we always think about, why we win, why we lose. But if you don't share your success story and that why you won, then other people don't get the opportunity to learn from you as well. What did you do that worked really well? You want others to learn from that as well. So if you reframe it as a learning opportunity for others, or it might be just something where someone takes inspiration from your story, I think those types of dynamics are important too. And then the final thing I would really say is people shouldn't forget about their own unique value, because you're not doing favors, right? You bring value to an organization. You should at all times understand what that value is, what you bring to the table, and also how that evolves throughout your career, because you keep evolving and the needs of the organization that you're with keeps evolving. So you have to understand how that works out and be able to communicate that as well. I would love for the next generation of female leaders to keep redefining what it means to be a leader. If I look back at when I started out as an individual contributor, leadership was already changing, but it was a little bit more about, you had an idea of what a leader looked like and what they did. And it was very much someone who knew everything and who told everyone kind of what to do. But if you look at where we are now, the world is changing so rapidly. So that doesn't even hold relevance anymore. It's morphed into this role where you're supporting and you're cultivating leadership in others. That's really your role. And you don't have all the answers, but you're counting on your team to come with the ideas together. I think female leaders, strong female leaders, from my experience, have always brought a new dimension to leadership that I've definitely experienced. It allowed me to think differently. They bring a different perspective. And having a strong female leader, it's just so powerful and very inspiring. So I hope that the next generation of female leaders can really bring themselves more, defy the whole traditional what it means to be a leader and what that looks like, into different ways of doing things and showing that for then the next generation of female leaders to open doors for them and to see that that's possible. I think one thing for sure is to not worry so much about fitting in. And I think this is part of also just your own growth as you age and get more experience. When we're younger, we tend to try to fit in more. Whereas when we get older, or at least in my experience, there's a lot more interest from my side into people who do things differently. I'm always looking out for that, who approach things differently, who bring their own unique perspective to things. So I think, that's something I would have told my younger self. And then the second thing I would say, to just trust your vision, because kind of for yourself where you want to go, what you want to do, but sometimes you might doubt that, or Other people might actually chime in, and then it might lead to you questioning whether that is something you should be going for, or whether that's something you should be wanting even. So just trusting your own vision at each time. And